Ladies and gentlemen,
Businesses have life cycles just like humans, and what they need at each stage will be different.
Yeah, it's a setup to make you get up and get into it. Allow me to influence your
the
financial
six
affluence.
figure
It's a setup
setup.
to make you get up and get into it. Allow me to influence your financial affluence.
The six figure setup.
But nothing in this world that I like more than checks. Money. All I really wanna see is the money.
Go get the money, go get the money.
My check.
The six figure setup.
In this week's episode of the Six Figure Setup, your host, Tiffany Gillespie, discusses the importance of preparing for the unexpected in business. You will learn all about scenario planning and how to navigate any scenario that arises in business. Grab your notebook and get ready to take notes. Hey guys, what's going on? It is your girl, Tiffany Gillespie, here with another episode of the Six Figure Setup podcast. And I am so excited, as always, to be back with you all for another episode. We are finally in episode 5, and we are rocking and rolling. You guys have had the opportunity to learn more about me and about my story. You've had the opportunity to hear from some of my guests and interviewees, and we have more powerful and dynamic guests and speakers who are going to be on the podcast. So make sure that you all subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Make sure that you subscribe on YouTube so that you all can see the visuals and get the notification of the visuals, about the visuals, whenever they go live every single Tuesday. So in my last solo episode, I spent some time talking about strategic planning. I started going a little bit into scenario planning and growth planning and all of the types of planning that you can have within your business. So today we're going to dig a little deeper into scenario planning and then how you can apply scenario planning to your business. So we're going to talk about what it is. We're going to talk about the different frameworks that you can use to develop a plan for different scenarios that may arise in your business. And then, of course, we're going to talk about how you can actually implement everything that you learn in today's episode. So I want you all to grab your notebooks, get ready. You know, I'm going to be teaching. I love doing my solo episodes because I'm really just able to focus on teaching more than anything. I don't have to, prepare any interview questions or, balance the time or anything like that. And anybody who produces a podcast understands and knows all about these things. So today is a solo episode. I'm going to be teaching. So again, make sure you grab your notebooks. While you do that, I just want to give a couple of reminders or like things for you all to be thinking about. We are at the end of September, which means that we are at the end of the third quarter of this year. If you view your business year in terms of the normal calendar, then we're getting ready to go into the fourth quarter of the year. But if you follow the fiscal year that typically runs from July until June, then you are actually entering the second quarter of the year. So when I'm talking about quarters, my company follows the regular calendar. Most of the companies and businesses that we work with, they follow the regular calendar in terms of the operations of their business. And, for the finances, it may be a little bit different. But again, we're at the end of September. We are preparing for the fourth quarter. So I really want you all to be thinking about how you're going to implement what I've been teaching and sharing for the fourth quarter, and really think about how you're going to push in preparation for the fourth quarter. This is, a lot of people kind of see this as like their Super Bowl season. They see it as the time of year where, any projects that you haven't rolled out, anything that you have not done, that you really just want to drive the year home. You want to drive the year home as we prepare for the fourth quarter. So you all should be, your plan should really kind of already be set because we're at the end of September. But in case they're not, you do still have a few days to set those plans for the fourth quarter. I also want you all preparing your minds to think about the new year. Again, in the fourth quarter, that's what one of the things we're going to be talking about a lot is preparing for 2023. Some of the things that you all should be evaluating within your business and all of that. And then we're also going to be talking about the holiday season. So first and foremost, all of my clients know that in the month of October, we are finalizing plans for the holiday season. So I actually have my clients start, working on like their marketing plans and all of that for the holiday season in September. And then it should be done in October. We're not waiting until like November. We're not waiting until the last minute to roll out these plans or develop the plans or whatever, right? So again, if you are not a client of my firm, then you may or may not have done this already, but I'm gonna give that to you for free. That at the end of this month, we're at the end of September once again, you all should be thinking about your fourth quarter push. You should be thinking about the holiday season, and you should also be preparing for the new year. And through the podcast episodes, I'm going to help you guys with that. Through the live broadcast that I'm going to be doing on social media, I'll help you with that as well. But if you need more specific help, you need to join the next cohort of Dream Builder Plus, okay? You need to join the next cohort of the Dream Builder Plus program, which is actually going to be kicking off in October in a few weeks. So if you've not already visited t3diversitysolutions.com, then you need to make sure that you go and visit the website and register for the cohort now so that you don't miss anything. I don't want you guys to miss anything, okay? So that's it in terms of announcements and covering what we're going to talk about today. I really want you all to take away from today's episode just the tools and strategy and resources that you need in order to navigate any scenario in business. There are all types of things that are going to happen, all types of situations and circumstances that arise in business operations. And as a business owner, you need to be prepared to tackle any of the circumstances, any of the things that you find yourself encountering, and being able to navigate that. And I'm going to give some examples of that as we dig in a little bit more. I am so excited about this episode and just ready to really talk about it because our firm, T3 Diversity Solutions, worked with our clients successfully through one of the biggest pivots known to business ownership in the history of time, and that is the COVID-19 pandemic. As we are all aware, COVID has not gone anywhere. Its effects and impact have been lessened, but it's still there, right? It's a type of flu, just like, the swine flu, bird flu, or avian flu, regular flu. We got all the flus now, right? So we're going to add COVID to the mix. So it hasn't gone anywhere. And many people are still feeling the effects of it, especially in business. We are still dealing with supply chain issues. We're dealing with inflation. We are dealing with staffing issues. All of these things are scenarios. So COVID in itself is a scenario, but all of these things that I just mentioned are literally scenarios that a business will have to navigate at any point in time. Okay, so that's what we're really going to be looking at, is the different types of scenarios that may arise. And I am honored to say, and it's a humble brag, but I don't shy away from the fact that every single client that we had going into the COVID-19 pandemic and the stay-at-home orders successfully and profitably made it through that time period and are still standing with their doors open to this day. Okay, so if you want to know how to navigate a scenario in your business, I'm the person that you need to be listening to. We journeyed with all of our clients. We had numerous clients. We brought on more clients. We actually saw an influx of clients around April or May of 2020. They went through a whole year with us, and then we got another influx. And in 2021, from 2021 to 2022, we served almost 100 businesses. That is 5 times the amount of businesses that we normally serve in any given calendar year. And all of those businesses were impacted by COVID. Some of them were started during COVID, and all of them still have their doors open today and are doing well. All right. So let's start. I'm first going to start off with just explaining to you all what scenario planning is and like what it means and the definition and all of that. And then we're going to go into a quick commercial break. And when I come back, we'll just dig into everything that we need to talk about today. Okay. So with scenario planning for businesses, scenario planning is the tool or the strategy that enables decision makers to identify potential or possible outcomes and impacts in their business, evaluate their responses, and manage everything for both negative and positive possibilities. So basically what scenario planning is it's you thinking ahead, it's you evaluating all of the possible or potential outcomes of any situation that could arise, and then looking at it from a positive perspective and a negative perspective. And what I mean by that is you're looking at it from the perspective of, if everything goes right, what does that mean for our business? If everything goes wrong and this entire thing crumbles and shambles, what does that mean for our business? And it's important that you look at the positive and the negative outcomes, the positive and negative side of things. The reason for that is because you don't know how things are going to go. We can make, plans until we are blue in the face, but we don't know for sure how things are going to go. We are literally just out here, as I say all the time, throwing things out there. It's like throwing spaghetti against the wall and hoping that it sticks. Do we make the plan? Do we evaluate the data? Do we poll our audience? Yes, we do our due diligence to make sure that we are covering all of our bases. But the reality is that something could happen that is beyond our control that impacts the plans that we have made. If that happens, what are you going to do? Okay, what are you going to do? So when we come back from commercial break, I'm going to tell you guys my COVID story and how it impacted my business. And then we're going to look at how you actually visualize potential risk and opportunities and become proactive instead of reactive. Okay, so don't go anywhere, guys. We'll be right back after this commercial break.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Businesses have life cycles just like humans, and what they need at each stage will be different.
Yeah, it's a setup.
Welcome back from the break, everyone. I hope that the information that you gathered over the break is beneficial to you. Make sure that you take advantage of it. So we are discussing scenario planning. We're talking about why it's important in your business. I've already shared with you all what it is, and we're going to just dig even further into some of the advantages and disadvantages of using scenario planning within your business. There are pros and cons to it because scenario planning is something that will take time, effort, and money for you to do well. Many people hire companies like mine to come in and evaluate how they will respond to potential scenarios. And literally, that's basically what my clients pay me to do, is to be able to see ahead, to see things that they don't see, to take my experience, my expertise, my knowledge, and apply it to the challenges that they're having in this moment, but to also think ahead. Okay. And that's what you want to be doing. So whether you do it on your own or whether you choose to engage with a company like mine, you need to take the time to understand the different scenarios that could arise and then make a plan for them. So I've told you all that I would share my COVID story and the scenarios that we had to plan for, and then the ones that we didn't have to plan for. So as I stated, we all make plans. We are at the end of the third quarter of 2022. We're preparing for quarter four, and we're also preparing for 2023. I was in the same position at the end of 2019. 2019 was a life-changing year for me personally and professionally. It is when I formally entered into the minority business development industry. I had always been working with minority businesses, but I didn't know that there was like an entire space being held for us until 2019, when I had the opportunity to engage with one of the business centers in Philadelphia. So I got connected to them, and it just opened my eyes. This is when we first learned about government contracting, and my company does that. This is when I first really began to think about my business as a 7-figure business, not just as a 6-figure business. And yes, this is the 6-Figure Setup podcast because I want everyone to get to the point that my business has achieved. We're not at 7 figures yet, okay? I have some guests that are coming on in future episodes who will talk about their 7-figure setup. But as for us in our house and our business right now, we're talking about 6 figures. But that didn't like multi 6 figures and like grossing, like bringing in a revenue that was like in the high 6 figures was not something that I even thought was as close as it could possibly be until 2019. So in 2019, when I found out this information, I hit the ground running. I was making all of the connections, networking with all the people, attending all of the events. My entire life changed in 2019. As a result of that, the plan for 2020 was immaculate. I mean, I sat down and thought out a plan. If I can be honest with you all, I have not developed a plan like the one that I developed in 2019 since. And I think a little bit of that could probably be, you know, a little bit of trauma from making such a grand plan and seeing it cut down in the blink of an eye. And I'll talk about how that happened. And then some of it, a lot of it is just growth and maturity in my spiritual walk. And as a business owner, that I don't plan the same way that I did before. Now, that does not mean that I don't plan. That does not mean that we don't do strategic and scenario planning, because we absolutely do. I would never teach you all to do something that I don't do myself, or a practice that I don't implement in my business or have my clients to do. So we go into 2020. 2020 was supposed to be the first year that we grossed over $500,000. Again, because for me, I was just trying to maintain like $100,000 or $100 and something thousand. But my eyes have been open, and I could easily see how we could reach over $100,000. I've shared this story on social media before, where I went, sent a screenshot to my best friend, and in December of 2019, we were projected to make $433,000 in 2020. That didn't include any clients that we were going to be bringing on. That was based on contracts that were on the table. That was based on clients that we currently had that we were going to be able to retain into the new year. So I knew that if we were coming into the year with $433,000, we could surely go over $500,000, right? So I was like, okay, we could probably at least get to like 550 if we bring in, you know, enough clients and all of that. So that was our plan. January, things were going good. We were actually looking for real estate. We were looking for brand new property to move the business into. My team was expanding. I mean, we were rocking and rolling. Like, I engaged with that business center, I want to say it was like maybe the summer of 2019, and literally like just everything changed. Nothing about my life or my business was the same by 2020. I had entered into a brand new partnership. You will actually meet one of my business partners in a future episode. Like, all of these amazing things were happening. 2020 was going to be our year. If that resonates with you, you need to leave a comment on this podcast episode. You need to leave a comment on the YouTube, wherever you're watching or listening to this. So 2020 was going to be our year. We're making all the moves. We're making all the connections. We're looking at properties. We have the team. We have the partners. We have the programs. We got the plan. All right. And we are ready to go. So January is going really well. February is going real, real well. I actually opened up it was my third or fourth business. And I, opened that up, and that was a years long, like I had been waiting for that dream, to come to pass for like 8 years, like 7 or 8 years. So 2020 was good, honey. It was off to a good start. Sis was single. I was living my best life. I had just started school back in my, master's degree program. I'm like, I'm getting a dual master's degree in business administration and divinity. Like, everything is popping. Okay, we are moving and shaking. Man, come the end of February, that's when, like maybe middle of February, end of February, we really started hearing about this thing called COVID. Then the beginning of March, next thing I know, it was like, all right, y'all got a couple of days to prepare for a 2-week shutdown of the entire country. Because how? And for why? And how, Sway? How, Sway? Like, how? What do you mean? I have a brick and mortar business that services clients in person that I just opened. I cannot close it 30 days after I open. Right? We have, the company is thriving. We about to move into a building and you telling me that we can't even come out the house. We can't even be near other people. I mean, if that wasn't a scenario that needed to be planned for, I don't know what was. So I wanted to tell you all that story because it's important that you understand that no matter how grand the plans are and how well you execute them, life is going to do what life does. And you have to be able to pivot and to maneuver without any emotion behind it. We went from that $433,000 got cut down to $90,000 in the blink of an eye. And y'all, when I still think about it, sometimes it still hits me. It's still like a gut punch because it happened. I have never had a decline in my business happen faster. I don't think I've ever seen anything in my life decline so fast, right? So again, we were preparing for this big year, and one of the contracts that was on the table, they had to put it on pause because we were all going home. It required us to engage and to interact on a university campus, and everybody was going home. They were sending all the students home. All the staff was going home. So that was about a little over $150,000. And they told us let's just put it on hold. It's only going to be for a couple of weeks. Right. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. No problem. I understand. We'll circle back in a couple of weeks. So that was on hold and off the table. I couldn't depend on that anymore because we weren't moving forward with it. And that's a lesson for you all. Unless it's something that we're moving forward with, I'm not putting that much stock in it. Yes, you can count it as a part of your financial projections or forecasting. Yes, you should absolutely do projecting and forecasting. And again, projecting and forecasting is based on what you believe will happen. It's taking your historical data coupled with what your plans are for this year and what you believe will happen in the future to be able to speak to that future financially. So that I took that out the equation. I was like, you know what? If and when it comes back around, we'll put that back on the table. That's off the table. And then the other contract was for over $215,000. And I actually walked away from that contract. The reason why I walked away, and I'm going to do a special episode just on walking away from a 6-figure contract. Maybe I'll do it in one of my episodes for next month, but walking away from a 6-figure contract because the people were really playing in my face. And I know that's not, the professional way to say that, but they were really playing in my face and wanted me. I had began an engagement with another business center outside of the city of Philadelphia in one of the surrounding counties. And I had presented this plan. We had all these meetings. We developed a plan for execution. They were trying to take over some new territories and regions, engage with some new partners and individuals. And I was helping them to do that. They come back to me and say, well, would you consider working for the center? Working for the center in what way? How are y'all offering me a job? I have a job. I'm the CEO of an entire company that is functioning and operating. And again, it's 2020. This is about to be our year. So you want me to walk away from my business that's about to gross over $500,000 for a job that only pays me $60,000 a year? And I got to do everything that y'all tell me to do? No. And it's nothing wrong with a job that pays $60,000 a year. Nothing wrong with that at all. But you're playing in my face if you're asking me to walk away from a $216,000 contract to take a $60,000 job. You're playing in my face. We'll talk about that more in a future episode. So I walked away from that. And again, literally in the blink of an eye, we lost over 300,000 of the 433 that was projected. I'm going to tell y'all what we did after the break. I want to take a break because I know I need a breather. You probably need one after hearing all of that craziness. So when we come back, we're going to talk about what we did. We're going to talk about the disadvantages and advantages of scenario planning. And then we'll wrap up with talking about how you can implement everything that you're learning in today's episode. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this commercial break.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Businesses have life cycles just like humans, and what they need at each stage will be different.
Yeah, it's a setup.
Welcome back. Thank you so much for sticking around and sticking with me. This is the Six Figure Setup Podcast, and I am your host, Tiffany Gillespie. Before the commercial break, I shared my COVID-19 story with you all, and it was important for me to share that with you all because we are talking about scenario planning today. So I want to jump right into talking about the advantages and disadvantages of scenario planning, and then we're going to talk about how you can actually implement or like the next steps that you need to take as you prepare to do your scenario planning. So just a couple of things. Scenario planning helps you as the owner of your company or as a leader in your company to understand the potential effects of events that could happen. Now, COVID-19 was not a thing that we foresaw. That's like when the Spanish flu hit in the 1900s. No one saw that coming, right? But there are different scenarios. And if you are paying attention, I tell you guys and encourage you guys all the time to pay attention to what is happening globally. Let me tell you this fact about COVID-19. COVID-19 caught a lot of people off guard, but there were also a lot of people who were not caught off guard. And the reason why is because they were paying attention to global news. If you were paying attention, you would have known that it was coming. I wasn't paying attention. I'm just gonna be honest, right? Most of us were not. But for those who were, it did not catch them off guard. One of the things that you should be doing if you are really serious about scenario planning is being tuned into global news. There are plenty of nonpartisan global news outlets that will provide you with information from all around the world. Another thing that you can use, another tool that you can use to make sure that you are staying on top of what is happening in your industry and in the space of business ownership is using Google Alerts, okay? It will send you information that pertains to the specific alerts that you set. And you will be able to get that news and that information direct to your email inbox. So scenario planning, one of the advantages is helping you as a business owner to understand the effects of very possible events. This is not like, we're not planning for if the world ends tomorrow. I mean, if the world ends tomorrow, you ain't gonna have no concern about your business anyway, right? So it's not something like that. Like that is not only is it, and I can't say it's unrealistic because we don't know when it's going to happen, but that's not something for you to be concerned about. That wouldn't be an event for you to plan for because there's not going to be any business left if the world ends tomorrow. Hopefully that makes sense what I'm saying. What could happen tomorrow is a recession. Right? Some experts say we're already in one. Some say that we are quickly approaching it. And some say that we may still have an opportunity to not enter into it. I'm not a financial expert, so I'm not going to speak to that. But regardless of what you believe, that's something that you could prepare for. Inflation is a very real scenario that is happening right now, and your business should be preparing for that. Supply chain disruptions and issues, political issues, that all of these are things that scenarios that you should be planning for. Now, I can't think of a political issue off the top of my head that could impact our business. Just because I can't think of it doesn't mean that I shouldn't be paying attention to it and saying, if it does happen, if something happens that results in some sort of legislation coming down that affects the space of minority business development, I need to be aware of that. Okay, so it helps you to do that. Another advantage of scenario planning is that all the teams within your business can prepare initial responses. So your finance team, your operations team, your marketing team. If there is no team and it's just you, then you need to prepare your operations, your finances, your marketing, and any other parts of your business for the potential scenarios that could impact your business. All right. Some of the disadvantages is that scenario planning is a huge undertaking if you try to do it by yourself. And like I said, my company does offer scenario planning help. We offer strategic planning help, and we actually kind of do our scenario planning as a part of strategic planning. We look at all the possibilities and what could happen if the plan that we develop doesn't go according to plan. Okay. So it's a huge undertaking. It can be a lengthy process because you have to collect like historical data, information, and the bigger your business, the longer it could take to plan, but it is a worthy investment of your time. So you don't want to wait until 2023 to try to develop a scenario plan for 2023, because then it's going to seem like even more of a task. Do it now with the information that you have and the historical data that you have, and then you just project into the future. Scenario planning is based on what ifs, okay? And then the as a connection to that, the factors that impact a scenario plan could change quickly because it's based on what ifs. It's based on things that happen in the future, and we can't say for sure what's going to happen in the future, okay? But you still need to be as prepared as possible, because whether you're ready for it or not, the future is coming. Whether you are ready for it or not, these scenarios could have an impact on your business. A scenario planning has to be a living process. It's not like a strategic plan. It's not like a growth plan. It's not like a business plan. It's not like all of these other plans that we make and a lot of times just sit on the shelf. A scenario plan is developed for the future, but you are constantly evaluating it in real time. You want to make sure that you are constantly updating your scenario plan as conditions change and as assumptions evolve. Like I said, there are some experts who say that we are already in a recession, some who say that we are entering it, and some who believe that we could avoid it. Okay. So you should be making a plan for your business for all of those circumstances. How are all of those things going to impact your client retention? How is it going to impact the other parts of your business? And as this quickly changes, literally almost every other day, or like it seems to be getting more and more frequent that the Fed is increasing the interest rates. We don't get any warning of that. So you can develop a scenario plan today, and then literally tomorrow the interest rates could increase, right? So you want to be paying attention to the conditions and assumptions that evolve. And the reason why that's a disadvantage is because it's taxing. It can be mentally, emotionally taxing. It can be taxing on your time, your spirit, your physical being, if you're like staying up late, trying to, pivot things or whatever. And I don't want you all to become obsessive about it or fearful about it. I bind up the spirit of fear. Y'all know I'm a God-fearing woman, and we do not operate out of the spirit of fear up over here on the Six Figure Setup podcast. Okay. So I don't want you all to be fearful. I want you to be aware. So let me just go through the types of scenario plans. I'm just going to list each one, give like a 1-sentence description, and then we'll talk about how you can use the scenario plans. And again, there's so many different types of plans. Scenario planning is different from business continuity planning. It's just different from everything, okay? So there are 4 types of scenario planning. Quantitative scenarios, which allow for a presentation of the best and worst case scenarios. Then you have operational scenarios, which is one of the most common types of scenario planning. And this looks at the immediate impact of any event on the operations of your company. So you're probably going to do operational scenarios, like what could happen that would impact the operations of the the business. Then there's normative scenario planning, and this describes a preferred or achievable end state. And then there are strategic management scenario planning. So basically, this is little stories that say little about the company or the industry, but more about the environment in which the products and services are consumed. So this is going to be you looking more at how a scenario will impact how your products or services are consumed. So how does COVID impact your consumers' ability to use your products? Did it increase? Did it decrease? Did it completely change and they don't want that anymore? They want you to come up with a new product. So that's what strategic management scenarios are, okay? So last but not least, I want to talk about how you can implement it. Okay, I'm going to give you just 3 steps to scenario planning, and then we're going to wrap up for today. All right, 3 steps to scenario planning, and then we're going to wrap up for today. And if you need more help with this, you guys know you can always reach out to me. Visit our website, t3diversitysolutions.com. You can join the next cohort of Dream Builder Plus. We go through a ton of strategy and evaluating different scenarios in that program. You guys can also work one-on-one with me in one of our exclusive programs. So it's just so many different ways that we can engage to help you with scenario planning if you need more information. All right. So the 3 steps to better scenario planning is that you want to identify critical triggers even in the midst of uncertainty. What are those things? Like, what triggers a certain response in your business? Any leader should be able to establish guidelines for how their business will respond in any given scenario. If we enter a recession, then what? If we don't enter a recession, then what? If we continue to stay in this place of limbo, then what? Okay, so the trigger would be a recession, right? That would be the critical trigger. And we're in a time of uncertainty. We don't know what's going to happen, but you can still prepare for it. And again, I'm not a fear monger or anything like that. So we're not, putting fear. I'm just giving you a very real example. It's hard to use COVID as an example anymore because it's not as relevant of a thing. It hasn't gone anywhere, but the reality is that it's not the number one thing. The number one thing is inflation and the recession, right? So that's why I'm using those examples. So that's number one. Number one, you want to identify critical triggers even in the midst of uncertainty. The next thing that you want to do is develop multiple scenarios, but keep it simple. Again, we're not planning for something that would have no real impact on your life or your business anyway. If the world ends tomorrow, your business will not matter because your business is going to end tomorrow. Okay. So you want to develop a reasonable number of scenarios. Like I said, with the recession thing is, if we stay in the place that we're in, if we fully enter into one, or if we don't. That's 3 scenarios. That's it, right? That's it. We're not looking at any other possibilities or, okay, so if we enter into one and it lasts for a year, if we enter into one and it lasts for 3 years, that's too much. Let's just keep it simple, okay? Keep it simple. And then last, you want to build a nimble response strategy. Here's one of the issues or kind of challenges with doing any type of planning in your business is that you want to be firm with your goals, but flexible with the method. Just because the company did not just because my company did not reach over $500,000 in 2020, didn't mean that goal just went away. And I was like, oh well, didn't work. Or, woe is me. No, we're not doing that, right? The goal is still the same. I just had to be flexible with the strategy, right? And we did not hit that $500,000 in 2020. But again, the goal didn't change. I just had to shift the way that I responded to what happened. And that's what you all want to do with any situation that arises in your business. Don't let it derail you. And I see this all the time. Like, people literally quit their businesses when they hit a rough spot. Huh? What? You can't give up on your business because it hit a rough spot. Like, businesses go through rough spots. I've talked about this before just the relationship with your business and business life cycles and all of that, but they hit rough spots. You don't give up because you hit a rough spot. So you want to be nimble in your response strategy to any scenario that could arise. All right. So a quick recap, and then we're going to be done for today. The 3 steps for better scenario planning are identifying critical triggers, even in the midst of uncertainty, developing multiple scenarios, but keeping it simple, and then building a nimble response strategy so that you can see the results that you want to see within your business. So that is all about scenario planning. That's all the time that I have for today. As I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, please make sure that you are doing your 4th quarter planning if you haven't already done it. If you have, go back and apply the information that you just learned today to make sure that your plan includes different scenarios that could arise. And then we'll be talking about in the coming months, preparing for the holiday season and also preparing for a new year, which you can start doing today. You don't have to wait on me to bring it up for you to start doing it. Okay. And then last but not least, I want you guys to visit T3DiversitySolutions.com to register for the next cohort of Dream Builder Plus. Make sure you all follow me on Instagram at iBuildBusinesses, and make sure you subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and subscribe on YouTube so you can see the visuals for this episode. I love you all to life, and I'll see you next week.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Businesses have life cycles just like humans, and what they need at each stage will be different.
Yeah, it's a setup to make you get up and get into it. Allow me to influence your financial affluence.
It's a setup to make you get up and get into it. Allow me to influence your financial affluence.
the 6-figure setup.
But nothing in this world that I like more than checks. Money. All I really wanna see is the money.
Go get the money, go get the money.
Gotta cut my check.
The 6-figure setup.